We are continuing on with the tiling in the bathroom today. We've finished the walls and we've mostly done all the cleanup, but we're going to start on the floor today. We've done a little bit of thinking, planning and preparation, and most importantly some setting out so that we know how we're going to lay this pattern. Let me show you where we're up to so far. So the floor tiles are much smaller than the wall tiles and should be much easier to work with. They're just 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters, whereas these ones on the wall are 60 centimeters by 60 centimeters and very heavy. The thing we have to be careful about with the floor tiles is the pattern, to make sure that we don't get any mistakes, because that would look pretty stupid. But what we've been working on so far is setting out around the shower area to make sure we get a decent cut on the right hand side of the room and also on the left hand side of the room as well. But most importantly, we'll have a nice cut on the left hand side of the shower drain here. We'll also have one on this side. We looked at shifting this over a bit so that we had like an L-shaped cut here. We shifted it back and forwards and backwards and forwards, trying to get good cuts around the shower drain, but then also taking into account what's going to happen on the sides of the room as well. Something else that we considered is which part of the pattern did we want up against the drain. We started off having this one here, but we shifted it over a little bit by one tile because we thought it looked slightly nicer with this kind of round pattern up against the shower tray rather than the slightly more frilly pattern. So as usual, lots of thinking and planning up front, but I think we've got a good direction to go in. There's always a bit of a compromise with this stuff, but I think we've found the best of all the worlds. The one thing that remains to be seen is what this pattern looks like when it covers the entire floor, because it is a little bit of a bold choice, certainly for us anyway, and hopefully we haven't made a huge mistake. So we did such a bad job of cleaning as we went last time. You're actually cleaning in advance.
No, I hate cleaning. When we were putting some tiles down to do the layout stuff, I noticed some print defects. And so I wanted to go through before we start laying and just put aside the print defects, and they'll probably be fine for cut tiles, and we can cut off the print defects. There's also a load of them like this. Strangely, came from in the middle of the box, but have loads of cardboard. So I think somewhere between them being printed and boxed up, they must have sat in layers with cardboard on them. So those ones I'll also put aside as contingency tiles. I also wanted to make sure that we have boxes in piles so that when we take from here, we can take in rotation, which we also did when we did the walls. I noticed one of the boxes, this box, has this slight mark. Now most of them it's coming off, but there is also in this box a slight, you need to see it in the light in the right direction, but there is a couple of print lines. So that it was either something on the printer or something. So by taking them from different boxes, they won't be next to one another, and then it won't be really obvious.
Very good. Always be prepared.
Lots of preparation.
So we haven't started yet, so this doesn't count as an undo. But these all need preparing. That's my map. That's where I'm starting. Oh. With hindsight, I would say that this mix is a little bit on the runny side. We definitely dialed in a slightly better consistency as the project went on, and it turns out I prefer a slightly stiffer mix. In the top corner.
Don't forget the back butter.
I did.
Well done.
Thank you. Okay, that's good. Oh, I like it when that happens.
How's it going? A bit fiddly?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, obviously they're so much easier to work with because they're light. So it's not like I'm out of breath just from lifting the bloody things up onto the wall.
But more grout lines.
But there's more grout lines.
So you're going to do them in 8 tile blocks. So get them all down with the spaces and then kind of do all the levelling and the spirit level. And
yeah, so I checked the first couple with the spirit level just to make sure we were going in the right direction, which we are.
Did you explain on camera that we are angling towards the drain?
So we're angling these tiles down towards the drain slightly because we want the water to flow into the drain rather than under the door.
And I think from some of the comments previously, it was not clear that we were doing this kind of wet room approach to the shower.
Ah, maybe not.
Which is why we waterproofed everything. There will be no screens, there will be no shower enclosure, no shower tray.
No privacy.
I mean, no door for a long time.
No door. So it's just that over and over and over again. So now that you've seen that, you can just turn off. You don't need to watch the rest of the video. I imagine nothing is going to go wrong. There will be no drama. There will be no undoing and redoing of anything, of any kind. So you won't be missing anything if you just turn off now. And definitely don't subscribe, don't comment.
Or like.
Definitely don't like it. In fact, hit the dislike button twice.
We've done that joke before, you know.
Yeah, I know. I don't have many jokes. So what's kind of funny is I thought that this was going to be a lot easier than the walls and a lot faster because lighter tiles, easier tiling.
Is that not
But if we think about the fact that I've laid 4 tiles that total less than the square meterage of 1 wall tile, and it has taken me quite some time. I think it will get a bit faster.
But also, all the learning gets done in the first tiles.
Absolutely right.
So,
I mean, another way of looking at it is I've laid 4 more tiles than I would in the same amount of time.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly right. Right, now, don't cock up the pattern. It goes like that. But now that I've got a reference for something, it's a lot easier to get the right pressure and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the first couple are always the hardest, right?
Yeah, they are.
So we were in high spirits, tiles were going down and they were looking great. But soon I realised that the slope was all wrong, and based on how I was laying these tiles, all the water would be running away from the drain rather than towards it. Working in rows like this meant it was difficult to get the right fall, so I changed approach and started laying tiles in columns, following the direction of where I wanted the water to flow. It was very slow and fiddly, and by the time the sun went down, we'd only laid a handful of tiles.
I think I'm just going to let the voiceover guy explain what's been going on, because I just don't have the energy for anything.
Let him. That's his job.
Yeah, get to work, voiceover guy.
Needless to say, it has once again been a little bit frustrating. I would say DIY tip.
Get someone else to do it.
These levelling systems, these things, are no good when you're trying to create a slope. Or at least we couldn't work out a way to use them to make getting a slope effective.
Well, because they keep making everything level.
Yeah.
They're doing their job that they're designed for.
Yeah.
Okay, should we do the next 3?
Yep, I was just trying to do this first row
Yeah.
because they've definitely had their open time.
They have.
And while you're taking a knee rest.
Yeah, much needed, I must say. Okay, yeah, so go right next to the previous tiles and then move it away from them. Yeah, like that.
So let me try and explain this problem a little bit better. When we laid the underfloor heating screed, we intentionally added a slope into the shower area to ensure any water runs downhill into the channel drain. But when we installed the waterproof membrane around the drain, this added a small but significant height increase right next to the drain. This is of course where we want the lowest point of the slope. And that meant when we laid the first row of tiles, we had to add a bit more adhesive on the back to correct the slope for the water runoff. This then increased with every row of tiles as we approached the middle of the room, where the screeded slope leveled out again. The upshot of all of this was we used much more adhesive and we took a lot more time to ensure we had the right slope on every tile to direct the water where it's supposed to go. We were also being obsessive about trying to get all the grout lines to line up, so this didn't create any knock-on effects and issues with inconsistent lines further down the track. So it was a bit of a pain in the ass, but we got things going in a good direction eventually.
See that? Can you check that edge again?
Not easily. Good morning, it is a new day. And whilst we didn't make a huge amount of progress in terms of number of tiles laid yesterday, I think we've broken the back of the hardest part. This area around the shower drain, we took a lot of time to get the lines right, to get the setting out right, to get the slope right, which was quite challenging, but we got there in the end after a couple of false starts. And we are really pleased with the way it looks. We're getting to the point where we're looking at tenths of a millimetre in terms of accuracy, which might be a little pedantic, but we want everything to line up and look nice. And so we are taking our time to do a good job. So the plan for today is just to press on and see how much we can get done with the whole tiles. We're going to work our way across the room to under where the bath is going to be. So because it's going to be hidden by a bathtub, maybe we will be a little less pedantic, but probably not.
But we can definitely use some of the slightly imperfect tiles.
But yes, we can use some of the less perfect tiles. And we're just going to stick a time lapse on and see how we go. So we can relax, not have to worry too much about the filming, put on some music and chill out. And so you can too. Enjoy. So it's a new day. This is day 4 of the floor tiling. If we get it done today, it would be the same amount of time doing the floor as we did with the walls, but I don't think we're going to be quite finished by the end of today, mostly because we've got lots of cuts to do around the edge of the room. So last time we were in here, I was focusing on getting as many whole tiles down as possible. We made really good progress on the last day, which is good. And while I was doing that, Kylie was going around and very carefully measuring and cutting all of the edge tiles for behind the shower drain and this kind of shower end of the room. They are all looking excellent, but they are not fixed down yet. So I've got more whole ones to do this end, and then everything that goes under the toilet and the sink. And whilst I'm doing that, Kylie's going to be working at the other end, getting all the cut tiles in. And we are very pleased with how it's looking, but we are very tired because something that we didn't factor in when we thought about how much easier the floor would be compared to the walls is how much time we're spending down on our knees and getting up and down. So we've got sore backs, sore knees, but we're going to press through, and when it's done, it's going to look amazing.
If there's nowhere that's not. Some sun is coming out.
No, that's good news.
It's good. Didn't put the generator on yet.
Yeah. So this is for the bath tap. So this template has been a godsend, A, for when we were working out the placement of this, but also for the tiles, because we just kind of cut out the middle bit and flip this back, and then we've got this one that will go there, this one that will go there, and we should still be able to reach these guys down here, in theory. Oh, goodness me. I can't do knees anymore. This is how all the professionals do it, you know. Oh no, all my tools are behind me. Oh, tiling. No, I'm getting up, Maybe that's what we should title this video. That pretty much sums up the last 5 days. Right, that is the last tile down. You know what that means? Time to grab them. But not today. So the important question is, are these tiles grey or green?
So these are called mint, and the interesting thing is they do change colour depending on the time of the day and the light. So I was in here earlier today doing all the cleanup on the floor, and these were much lighter, much...
Almost shiny.
Yeah, but kind of like an aquary sea green. And then when it gets later in the day and it's gone a little bit overcast outside, and so it's a bit duller, these go much darker. And I can understand why you might think that they're grey. And someone else said, oh, they look a bit industrial. And I would agree, this time of the day or when we have the artificial lights on, they do. And I kind of like that depending on what time of the day you come into the bathroom as to how it looks. I kind of was like, what are these people talking about? The grey tiles. We don't have any grey tiles. But they're green, very green. But like a deep sea tealy green.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about the wall tiles. We're here to talk about the floor.
Which is excellent. I mean, it has been a mammoth task.
Yeah.
So I think we did 5 days of laying the tiles. And then there's been a couple of extra half days of coming in and clearing it up and scraping out adhesive from in between the tiles. And that's the one thing I didn't like about the plastic clips. As much as they're great for leveling, they are a pain because you can't clean out the adhesive at the time. You have to come back in the next day and clean it out. But that's all done. I was worried about this pattern being a bit too busy and all the things, but it's not at all.
What's funny about these floor tiles is they're quite small, so they're only 20 centimetres in each direction.
Or 8 inches.
Or 8 inches. Maybe we'll talk more about the size of them in a second, actually, because we learned something interesting about them. But because 4 of them make up one of the elements of the pattern, and then another 4 make up a slightly different element of the pattern, it ends up looking like they're quite large, even though they're really small. It looks like we've got 40 by 40 tiles rather than 20 by 20. Anyway, it looks great. We're really, really happy with the result. It was a bit of a pain to get here, and I did think that the floor was going to be so much easier than the walls, but as usual, I was wrong.
One of the reasons that it took us so long was because we were being quite particular about getting all the grout lines to line up. But when I started doing the cut tiles for all around the edges, I discovered that the tiles are not all exactly the same size.
It was even small print on the box.
And I guess there's a tolerance from when they're manufacturing them. But what it means is when you have a 2mm grout line gap and your tiles are out by up to 1mm per tile, and so when you're trying to get your 4 perfectly lined up, and it's mostly an issue where, if you can show my feet, where you're running along this pattern where it's lots of black joining up, and actually that's a really example where they don't line up. Yet this 4 matches up, but by the time you get up here, it doesn't match up. And because we know we're having a bathtub here and you're never going to walk behind the bathtub, we try to do as much of that under the bathtub, like correcting the lines. There are a few spots, and when you think it's 12 of the floor tiles for one of these big tiles.
I think it's 9, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, yeah, 9. You then spend a lot more time laying 9 tiles as opposed to 1 tile. We did the best that we could, given the constraints that we had. We also had an issue with slight height differences because of the waterproofing on the floor. So where the 2 Dietra mats would kind of join, there was a band over it, and that would create a slight...
Yeah, like a high spot.
Yeah, and then of course the sloping down to the drain. So all of that thrown in together was why it took so long. But it looks really good, very happy. And I hope that when we add the grout, that any of these little inconsistencies become even less obvious.
And yes, speaking of grout, that is what is up next. We wanted to get it done in this video, but the tiling just took so much longer, so we'll have to wait for a future episode for that. We've got grouting to do, we've got siliconing to do, and then we've got all of the taps and fittings and stuff like that to go in, and then we can have an indoor shower, which we are very excited about.
I was hoping that my outdoor shower today was going to be my last one, but...
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
So yes, lots to look forward to in the coming weeks. We're going to go and rest briefly before we get started with the grouting, but we will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. It's a bit echoey in here.
Yeah, it is a bit echoey in
Put
here.
some furniture in here.
Maybe some curtains.
No, maybe a ceiling as well. Hey?
Oh yeah, maybe a ceiling. That's a good idea.
That might dampen the echo a bit.